Hello everybody, my name is Shruti Kulkarni and I am the International Youth President for NGN. Today we're going to be going over policy and how to succeed in that event. So this is just a quick breakdown on what an example submission might look like, as well as just the resources that you should be made aware of. So first things first is just all the resources that you need in order to succeed in this event. It's just a hard requirement that you should be looking at these resources if you want to do well. So essentially what we're going to be looking at is the NGN website, ngn.org. You're going to want to click on resources, which will bring you to this page right here. And here we have everything. We have the NGN Global Challenges Conference of 2021. Here we have the registration form. Here we have the policy competition guide, which is the main thing you're going to want to look for. And once you click on the policy competition guide, it should bring you to this drive folder right here. So I've already opened it to page 5, as that's the page we're going to be most concerned with, which is the rubric. But obviously, be sure to look over literally everything else because it gives you an example of what you want to propose. It gives you it explains every single component of the rubric, and it gives you some really good submissions and places to look. So that's pretty much the main things you're going to want to look at. But let's take a look at the rubric. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you guys can see it a little better. But the main things, at least content-wise, that you're going to want to be looking at is the introduction, the request to judges, the problem definition, financial analysis and timeline, and the proposed solution. So obviously, there's a lot in each of these. So I'm going to just break it down step by step using a real example. So first things first is the introduction. Which states that you have to have all the first and last names of all the team members, the member schools, the grade levels, the presentation title, and the icons of the NGN 2120 goals that the project pertains to. The presentation clearly defines the judge's role. So, pretty much, this is the bare minimum requirement that you need to have in order to have a complete presentation. I just want to preface this by saying, this example submission I'm about to show you does not guarantee full points, but it does essentially hit all the check marks. Keep in mind that you are proposing to an investor, so the more appealing you can make your project look, the better. And I will be going over on how to make your project look way more appealing using these same slides and this same example very shortly after I go over this example. So this is the introduction slide. As you can see, we have our title. We have all of the names and our grade levels. Since all these students attend the same school, we have the school and area. We have the goal icons and or banners, and then we define the judges' roles right here to raise financial and political support, to give tech to the technologically illiterate and underprivileged. We then state it is a policy solution, and we talk about which goals it addresses. So pretty much that kind of just covers all the bullet points. I don't really think there's a way to elevate this, but obviously, you can make it look a little more aesthetically pleasing. You can access all of the icons and images over here in the NGN Club resources, where you go to NGN logos and banners. Everything is there. But yeah. Next up is the request to judges. So once again, this just needs to be a really clear example. You can actually combine the role definition and the request to judges in one slide, but as long as they're distinct and there, that's all that really matters. So here's the request to judges. My group asked for 16K pretty much, but we clearly defined it. We gave a breakdown of where exactly these funds were going, and we talked about how we're going to be using it. So we want it in seed fundings, and then furthermore, we want assistance with hardware distributors and promotion within the professional world. So we just asked for more exposure, and we asked for a direct action, and then we asked for a monetary donation. So these are really specific responses, and in the case that the investors can't meet your monetary demands, they'll know that there's some other area that they can help you with if they do feel strongly about your project. We then, once again, this is a very important thing to include, the breakdown of the funds that you're going to have. Because it just, once again, makes your request to judges that much more clear. But, once again, the more transparent you make it, the better. Next up, we have the problem definition. So problem contains a clear definition. Team identifies a policy problem in need of a change. Team offers a step-by-step analysis of the problem and uses relevant information to indicate that the problem introduced is legitimate. So here's the problem definition. Tell me what's wrong with this. Well, a lot. Firstly, there's not enough statistics here, and you'll see that the NGN pitch over here, the second one that we're going to go over, is going to be a lot better. But once again, this is the bare minimum of a problem definition. As you can see, the problem is defined. We just talk about how most students don't have access to computers. Lack of a way to get themselves out of poverty, or at least like one less way they can get themselves out of poverty. We identified our target audience, essentially who is impacted by most by this. And then we talked about our social impact opportunity. So this is something that will make more sense as you go into the more complete pitch as opposed to the bare minimum. And pretty much what this shows is that there's a correlation between the amount of money put in and the amount of people impacted. Some really important things to add within your problem definition, firstly, is statistics. Statistics are very important. I believe in the script version of this presentation we had statistics, but obviously it's not present on the slides. That was a mistake. Definitely have your statistics present on the slides, because essentially it just brings more legitimacy and shows that you put research into this problem, right? Next thing that you're going to want to do is your step-by-step analysis. So this is not a requirement. This is actually an old pitch. This was not a requirement in the previous year. But let's take a look at what a step-by-step analysis looks like. And this is included in the competition guide. So you can find the explanation for the step-by-step analysis on page 7. So this is a very brief step-by-step analysis, right? Where it's just like causes of little food to access to low-income earners, statistics demonstrating impact of the causes, common traits in the causes, what is the overarching issue, right? So if we were to apply this to this exact presentation, what we would do here is I would find statistics relating to how many people don't have access to technology, how many people within like the areas that we're targeting are stuck in poverty, and then I would discuss really basic things like because of this, how has the poverty rate decreased over time? And then we could see like a direct correlation between the lack of technology, the lack of opportunity, and the consistent rate of poverty, right? So pretty much you're trying to build a narrative with your statistics, that these statistics demonstrate that this problem really exists. And then pretty much just what you want to synthesize it after. So common traits between these causes, what is the overarching issue? So pretty much just synthesize the whole thing. And this would be actually a pretty good synthesis statement right here. The underprivileged are stuck in a cycle of poverty due to new tech demands in society. So that's pretty much the main idea behind the problem definition. But once again, in the more complete pitch, which I'll go over at the very end, you will see what a much stronger NGCC presentation looks like. So the next thing that we're going to want to go over, if we go back to page 5, would be the financial analysis and timeline. So this is a very weak financial analysis, but it is a financial analysis. And I will tell you why. Because what we did is we analyzed the expenses and we analyzed the income. So the reason that this is a weak financial model or financial analysis is because there is no explanation. However, once again, this is the bare minimum of what you have to include. Show that you know where your expenses are coming from and show that you know where your income is coming from, right? As you can see, we put it in a little bit of a chart. So having the chart present, makes it just a little more visually appealing. And obviously you're going to want every advantage you can get when you're appealing to investors. So this is the sort of, like submission that you're going to want to propose to the investors, right? You want to show where you're getting your money and where the money's coming from. So that, once again, the competition guide goes into this in much more detail, but it is important that you recognize what a basic financial analysis looks like. So next up is the timeline. Once again, very weak timeline, just because the milestones aren't really thought out too much. But what the key idea here is, and once again, this is the absolute bare minimum, is that you recognize that your project can continue with or without funding, right? So pretty much, regardless of funding, like this timeline has still been set in motion. You're trying to prove that your project is sustainable and your project can continue and can still achieve great things regardless of the funding received. So it's essentially showing that your project isn't really like a one-trick pony or a one-off gimmick. It's more so like something that's here to stay, a legitimate product, idea, service, campaign. Yeah. So pretty much you have your dates here. Obviously, just have a decent idea of when each milestone is achievable, have important milestones. So for example, like if you haven't been able to tell already, like this pitch would have been like an education provision sort of project. So this would make it so we need to make videos, we need to find clients, we need to find clients to give these videos, we need to maintain various platforms in order to maintain our resources, etc. Right? So this is why like recruiting would be necessary, right? And then we'd be explaining that in the pitch. Here's like customer acquisition. This is something that you really want to do, especially if you're doing a policy project. You want to be able to survey your clients and optimize your product. And essentially what that means is you want to be able to show the judges that you're able to alter and be flexible with your product in order to essentially be open to more ideas and maximize the potential impact of your proposal, right? Because of how the initial judge proposal would have been, within the Bay Area, that was specified within the request to judges. Here you want to like talk about expansion, obviously, and this would have been several months after NGCC 2020. But essentially what you also want to show if you're proposing any sort of product or business as opposed to a campaign, or even with a campaign, show that you're able to scale up and you're able to indicate that your project is popular and can have like a real base. And then obviously, just some basic other milestones. So you should have, honestly, I think 6 to 7 little goals on your timeline. Obviously, like the more the merrier, but be sure to designate which ones are like the key milestones and which one are like the little more minor milestones. Having a graphic for this would be great, but once again, bare minimum. So last one is the solution. So pretty much this is once again the bare minimum for the solution. So essentially you just talk about why it works. Once again, you need to provide statistics. I cannot stress this enough. Statistics are very important, but this is the bare minimum. So you need to show that you know exactly what you're talking about. You're able to build towards communities. We're able to empower others. We're able to give students like opportunities to excel. And this is kind of just what like the aim of this pitch would have been. Like essentially we're taking the problem of linearity within societies. We're taking away the problem of being stuck in that poverty cycle by offering new pathways, and we're providing that direct technology to essentially eliminate the classism part of it, right? So that's essentially what the solution would have been. So yeah, that would have been the bare minimum for what a policy submission looks like. Now let's take a look at a much better, more fleshed out policy submission. So I want to emphasize that we're using the exact same examples from before, but this slideshow is extremely beefed up. I'm not going to refer to the rubric nearly as much just because at this point you should have like a fairly good idea of what it looks like. But I will go over what makes this pitch great. So once again, when you're proposing something for policy, you need to keep in mind that there's two aspects to it. Firstly, it's the problem and the impact of the problem. That's the first part. The second part is sustainability, but I'll go over sustainability after. So the first part, which is the problem and the impact of the problem, is essentially if the judges invest in this, are you guaranteeing that the problem can be solved, or can you guarantee some sort of result that the problem can be solved? So if you're doing like a business, for example, right, and nothing wrong with doing a business, even though one might associate policy with like charity sort of stuff. Absolutely not. You can definitely do a business here. If you're doing a business, for example, and you're offering a product, you need to be able to show that this product makes tangible change within the field that you're trying to go in. If you're doing a policy change, like if you're proposing like a piece of legislation, then what you need to do here is you need to prove that every single perspective has been thought of. You need to be able to show that this will benefit the largest amount of people, and you need to be able to take like everyone's interests and need, right? Everyone's interests into account. So that's pretty much the main idea behind what the policy submission is. You're selling a solution to a problem that everybody has. So once again, one of the title slide, honestly, this looks great, but once again, you can change it up. You can put the judge's role. You can merge it with the requested judges. It's really not a problem, but yeah. Next up, request to judges. Once again, just be clear, specific, have your distribution of funds. Very simple, very easy. Next up, problem in the community. We went over this again. Once again, just have statistics. So these are like real life statistics that we did because we actually conducted this project prior to NGCC. So we had real data. And this is also very important. If you were able to dry run your project, which I do believe is a requirement within the solution, so for example, realistic solution, right? What this means is that you need to prove that the solution can actually happen, and the best way to prove that the solution can actually happen is actually like by doing it. So for example, if you're running like once again a sort of like if you're proposing legislation, try to run like a small petition, see how many signatures you can get in a set amount of time. If you're running like an actual project, see if you can get like a test run of the project up and running. You know how it is. So once again, have real statistics. This is one statistic. Obviously have more, but be able to explain everything, essentially. Here's a solution. And the solution is primarily where your focus will be going. Because this is the part where you're trying to sell to your judges that, you know what, my solution is the real deal. It has worked. It is tested to work. And if you invest in it, your money will not go to waste. So this is an example of the project. So this is proof that, popular support. This would be proof of, children actually working with the Kindles we provided them. And then this would be, provision to senior citizens, another estranged group with a lack of technological knowledge. And yeah, so pretty much these are all real pictures from the actual executing of the campaign when we first launched this project. So having these real results really boost the legitimacy of your project. But if you don't have time, then try to refer to similar studies or similar projects, but make sure to differentiate your proposal from what they've already conducted. Next up, milestones achieved. So this is once again just adding greater legitimacy to your solution. So the difference between any regular sort of statistic and having personalized applicable statistics is that applicable statistics to your project, like real statistics from your project, if you're able to run a test run, make your project seem much more relatable and much more understandable to the investors, and they have like a better idea of what they're getting into. Once again, if you don't have time to conduct your project, that is fine, and you can find generalized statistics, but the more statistics you're able to prove that are more directly tied into your projects, the better. So once again, just proof of money raised, and then an example of like an article, right? And then once again, quantitative goals for 2020. So this is a good idea of what you're going to do with your money. So you could include this in your request to judges, but you can also include this in your solution just to show like where the money is going and how it directly benefits your solution, right? So yeah. Next up, phases. So this gives the investors a better idea of how exactly your solution works, and what exactly, once again, you're going to do with this money. So this is a very loose timeline. This is what you could consider a timeline. If you attach dates to this, this could be a more finalized timeline. But essentially, just having this sort of breakdown and having this sort of clarity on how exactly your project is going to operate is very, very helpful. Next up, you have the stakeholder analysis. Once again, just more detail. I'm not going to go too much into this, but this demonstrates that your project can scale up, right? That's pretty much it. And then financial model, we went over this. Content available, this just goes further into detail on the financial model, which is once again something that you are going to want to include. So this discusses how exactly you're going to make money and what exactly you're going to give away. And essentially, once again, just shows to the investors that you have like a more clear idea of where exactly this revenue is going to come from and how exactly you're going to pay them back if you do plan on paying them back. If you don't plan on paying them back, like once again, proposing legislation, asking them to directly donate and endorse rather than, offering them a stake, then I would strongly suggest indicating the financial benefits to them or the direct benefits to them whenever you're proposing your financial model. Like try to quantify the benefit to them if possible. Next up, we went over this timeline. I'm not going to go over this too much. But then you want to have a summary. This is not required in the presentation, but I just do think this is a very good idea for any pitch to have because of the fact that it enables people to have a better idea of what exactly they just listened to, what exactly they're getting themselves into, and what exactly the cause they're supporting is. So having a recap is very important because you just want the investors to remember everything from the start to finish. And that way, when they ask you questions, you're able to answer it more confidently and they're able to have a better idea of whether they want to put their faith in you or not. So that's pretty much it. That's essentially a full walkthrough through the policy competition guide. If you have any if you have any questions, please contact vpevents@ngn.org. This is a typo. It should be at ngn.org. But please contact vpevents@ngn.org, and they will get to answering your questions as soon as possible. So yeah, vpevents@ngn.org. So yeah, be sure to check those out. Furthermore, you need to check out the competition guide as it explains everything I just went over in much more detail. So yeah, furthermore, I just want to refer you to the YouTube channel as well. So if you actually go to NGN's YouTube channel, which you can just search up by searching up NGN on YouTube, you'll find this channel, 66 subscribers. You can go ahead to our playlists and you can find our NGCC 2020 playlist. So if you look at these, you'll find pretty much pitches from NGCC 2020. And although the requirements have slightly changed between 2020 and 2021, the main thing that you are going to want to take away from these videos are presentation, content, and how exactly they proved that they were winners. So although this is a STEM solution, share and change is also a very good idea to look into when it comes to proving it, because this was last 2020's winner. Another notable one, a really good policy submission outside of Project Bridge, the example that I used. Another really good one would be HS polls. I believe this is a legislation proposal. And another really good one would definitely be the fire risk probability detection, which is once again a STEM submission, but being able to have that demo and understanding what exactly like a good pitch looks like is very important to succeed in this event. So with that, I think that's pretty much everything that we can go over for NGCC 2021. Once again, be sure to register because registration closes mid-February. And you don't want to miss it. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. You can win thousands of dollars for your startup, your seed money, your club, as long as you partake in NGN. So if you haven't already, please charter a chapter. Once you charter a chapter, please come to NGCC because we want to empower you. So yeah, I hope to see you there. And once again, if you have any questions, contact vpevents@ngn.org.